Richard Crouse.
Tell me a little bit about your take on this. I've been reading a couple of interviews here with you, and you say, rather than calling it a sci-fi film, which I think would have been my first inclination, you say it's a contemporary thriller. It's more than that. What I think is a sci-fi film that places the sci-fi secondary to the relationships contained within and the ideas within.
That's not a bad definition. I guess my approach was to try and just diffuse the idea that this was just another sci-fi film, because I think there is a lot more to it than that. And I think if you open up with the idea that it's a contemporary thriller that has some sci-fi ideas in it, then you can kind of explain from that point that really it's about the characters. It's about this character that Jake plays, Colter Stevens, who finds himself on a train, and it's got a very classic feel to it. You know, he's an ordinary guy who finds himself in crazy circumstances. There's a mysterious dame. It's almost like a Hitchcock movie in that respect. And then obviously it becomes a lot sort of weirder.
Well, I was going to ask about Hitchcock because the train stations, there's a clock tower, there are things that are very, to me, very kind of Hitchcockian all the way through this. A big influence on you?
Well, certainly for this film, when I was reading the script, I was thinking this is like other than the conceit, other than the sci-fi conceit, this is like an old-fashioned classic thriller. Right. And I like we made the decision early on, Jake and I, that the best way to get the most out of this film was to try and lighten the tone and inject it with some humor. And Hitchcock did that as well, and I think it lends itself to that kind of vibe. So where we could, we tried to just do a little tip of the hat to those old Hitchcock movies.
Right. Well, I think part of the thing that makes this movie so effective is the casting. You've got Jake Gyllenhaal and Michelle Monaghan, and the thing that I liked about them is they seem to be having a real kind of day. Let's take the conceit out of it for a second, the 8-minute conceit. They seem to be having the kind of conversations that people actually have. The first time that he lands in the source code, and I don't want to give anything away for people that haven't seen it, but the first time he lands in the source code and he doesn't really know what's happening, she responds in what I thought was kind of a natural, really kind of lovely way. When she says, "Oh, come on," I can't remember the exact lines, but she's like, "What's wrong with you? Are you feeling okay?" But it seemed very real to me, in a way that I might not have expected, given the conceit of the film.
Well, I think that is one of the major benefits of taking your time in casting and making sure you get the right people. I think what we were able to do, and I thank the producers for this, is they gave us a week of rehearsal time ahead of the shoot for Jake and myself and Michelle to really break down structurally what needed to be done in those scenes, so that we knew what the A was and we knew where we were trying to get to. We knew what the B was, and then having done that homework, when we started shooting it, we could be much more improvisational, and they could make it natural, and that's the job and the benefit that you get of working with very skilled actors.
Right. I was going to ask you about the improv aspect of it, only because the story has to be tightly structured. Because you are going back and you're revisiting the same space of time over and over again. So it has to be tightly structured. So you did allow for a little bit of give and take during the thing, and you didn't go in and say, the script is the Bible, we cannot veer away from this.
No, I wouldn't. I would never do that. I mean, that is one of the elements of my directing style. I don't believe that the script is the Bible. Right. I think it's absolutely there as the most effective safety net that you can get for telling a story. But I think, I hire the best cinematographer I can, I hire the best editor I can, because I want them to be able to do their jobs the way I know they can do it, and that's the same way I am with actors. There's no point hiring an actor and just sort of telling them exactly what to do. I want them to do it because they know how to do it. Right. And if that means changing the words on the page, I'm fine with that. Like I said, as long as we start on A and we get to B.
Right. Do you think that your experience working as a commercial director for so long helped you make sure that the details in this, because commercial directing is all about the details.
Yeah, it is.
And visually, particularly, I think, and narratively as well. But in this film, the details are very important. And do you think that the eye that you developed or must have developed over 10 years or more of making commercials fed your work here?
I think it helps. I think it helps. I am, if you can ask my girlfriend, I am a painfully detail-oriented person.
Well, the devils are in the details,
Absolutely. So that kind of comes naturally. But I think it certainly helps. The advertising background I had does lend itself to an appreciation of details. It also lends itself to an appreciation of how to work with large numbers of people and bring them along with you, because obviously having come from a small independent film to a film where I'm dealing with bigger money and more producers and more people who I have to sort of explain things to, in a way, Source Code felt more like working on a commercial than Moon did.
Really?
Yeah,
I guess
so.
Because of the input, there's way more people, right?
There's a lot more people, and you have to, you really do. I make the comparison that it's a bit like the difference between driving a speedboat and trying to captain an oil tanker. You really have to take your time to help swing everyone with you.
Right. Now, I find it interesting the projects that you are choosing to make. Moon, which was essentially one character, and I don't want to give anything away for people that haven't seen it, but essentially one character for a couple of hours that we're going to share the screen with. And then in this one, you've chosen a movie that has a great deal of repetition in. These are both things that I would think that recently, or people that have recently started making features might avoid in some way, only because they're difficult, right? They represent huge challenges to keep the movies compelling and interesting.
Well, I have to say, I do kind of get off on the puzzle solving aspect of making movies. I like those challenges, and it keeps me feeling like beyond just the script, I have a specific agenda. I have a puzzle to solve.
Right.
So for me, that's a lot of fun. I don't know if all of my films will end up being like that, but I do really get excited when I read a script and think, oh, how can you do that? How are you going to be able to solve that particular difficulty? And that's a lot of fun. And then by the time I've thought it through enough, I'm completely engaged, and I want to do it. I want to solve it.
Right. What movies did you grow up loving?
Well, funnily enough, when I was really young, it was the real classics. I was very much into my Errol Flynn movies, the old pirate and Robin Hood movies he did. James Cagney as well. I was watching videos at home a lot when I was a very young kid. So we had a U-matic of a lot of old movies, so Sony U-matics. So those were the kinds of movies that started me off. And then, when I was growing up, my tastes expanded, and I got more into science fiction actually, and Star Wars and Blade Runner, all those kind of films really started to engage my interest.
Right. I think I'm about 10 years older than you are, and I'm 47, so I think I'm at least probably. And for me, it was movies like Planet of the Apes and things like that.
Oh, of course, those
took
are fantastic.
That took me to a different place, but still were about something more than the science fiction conceit of the film. They were about the ideas rather than the, hey, look, it's monkeys that can talk. It was about more than that, right? Yeah,
I mean, you can call them message movies, but I think that does them a disservice. I think they really they did appreciate the human being at the center of the narrative,
right?
And I think that is something which certainly appeals to me.
Richard Crouse.